Today's webinar is with Red River College Polytech Language Training Center. The Language Training Center at Red River College Polytech has locations in Winnipeg, Steinbach, Arborg, and Thompson, offer innovative and accessible courses including English language learning foundations, English for employment and academic study, and English for specific purposes programs. This presentation provides an overview of the courses offered at Red River College Polytech Language Training Center. Attendees will learn what courses are offered at Red River College Polytech Language Training Center and when they are offered and who is eligible to take them. So please welcome the Red River College Polytech Language Training Center team. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Sonia. That polling information was super helpful. Thank you for doing that. Next slide, please. Well, it's astonishing to see so many folks joining us today, almost 100. So thank you very much for attending this webinar and for expressing your interest in English language programs at Red River College Polytech. It's very exciting for us to be here. Thanks very much also to Manitoba Star for giving us this opportunity during Career and Workforce Development Month. I think we can begin, since there's several of us here, with some introductions. And I think we probably should begin with our director.
That's very kind, Stuart. Hi, everyone. I'm Angela Chodka, not Debbie Craker, like the name says underneath me. Yes, I'm Angela Chodka. I'm the director of the English Language and New Career Pathway Initiatives at RRC Polytech. We're really excited to see so many of you here. We aren't surprised to hear that you're looking for part-time classes. And we also aren't surprised to hear that many of you are intermediate to advanced. Yeah, we look forward to giving you some information about what we currently offer, but also learning from you about what would work for you. So thanks very much for being here, and please use the chat and provide information to us throughout the presentations about what your needs are and what would work. Thanks, everybody. I'm going to turn you over to the amazing team here at RRC Polytech and enjoy the presentation.
Great, thanks, Angela. Debbie, would you like to go next?
Sure, I'm the actual Debbie Craker. So I'm the program manager for English for specific purposes for health. So if anybody out there is interested in a career in health, or I'm not going to do my big plug now, but if you're interested in a career in health or you have had a career in health, I want to talk to you about that and the language training that you need that aligns with that. Thank you.
Thanks, Debbie. Michelle?
Hello, I'm Michelle Johnson. I'm the manager of student integration and employment outreach. And as you can tell, I've lost my voice, so I won't be doing much speaking today, but I'm very happy to be here and listen in.
Thanks, Michelle. Hope your voice recovers soon. Chris?
Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Chris Reeve, and I am the Work Integrated Learning Coordinator. I'm here with the center, and I think I'll leave it at that just because I'm going to be telling you in more detail all about my program later on. And so just to not repeat myself, I'll leave it at that and pass it back over to Stuart.
Thanks. Let's not forget Scott, who's in control of the slide deck. Scott, do you want to say hello and introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Scott Poole, and I am the program manager in charge of Stage 2, where all you seem to be from. So it's going to be 5 to 8, and I'll be here with the slide deck and to answer questions at the end of the presentation.
Thanks, Scott. And I think last but not least is myself. Hi, I'm Stuart Schwartz. I'm also a program manager at the Language Training Center. Next slide, please. Yes, so Red River College Polytech is very much committed to truth and reconciliation. And speaking about the Language Training Center itself, Our staff and faculty are demonstrating this commitment primarily by listening and as well through learning. We have taken part in some very interesting activities such as the blanket exercise, which some of you may know about, as well as some self-directed courses, particularly one called 4 Seasons of Reconciliation. So at this time, we'd like to acknowledge the land we are meeting on. We respectfully recognize that Red River College Polytechnic campuses are located on original lands of Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and on the homeland of the Métis Nation. Next slide, please. I guess we'll begin with some goals for our goals for this presentation today. We'd like to assist in helping you find out about the Language Training Center's locations. We use LTC when we're trying to refer to Language Training Center in an abbreviated way. We'll talk a bit about the LTC's English language programs to help you learn a little more about them. And we also want to help you understand how these programs might connect to your career goals. As well, you should be able to determine if you're eligible for services at the Language Training Center. And finally, hopefully we will help you understand how you can request a referral to the Language Training Center. Next slide, please. We'll talk a little bit now about locations and programs. Next slide, please. And I'd like to turn it over to Debbie for a moment to talk a little bit about the right shoes for the journey.
So at the Language Training Center, it's really important to us that you don't waste your time, and everybody is on a different pathway. You have a unique journey to become, let's say, licensed in a field that you've already practiced in, or to start a brand new field, a new pathway, a new career, or to do your job better. Maybe you're already in a job and you just want to tweak your language skills so that you can perform better at work. You all have your own story, your own journey. Some of you are also in charge of and responsible for children or other loved ones in your home, and you don't have a lot of time to devote to your studies, and you need to squeeze it in between school pickups or between caring for an aging parent. Our goal has been to create responsive programming that addresses some of the needs that each of you have on your own personal journey to learning. So as we go through the slides, we are going to, I think you'll see that we have a number of different offerings to make those sorts of accommodations for you, to find the right shoe. I don't know if you know the expression, if the shoe fits, wear it. And so we'll find you something that fits, that you can wear as you continue on your language training journey. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Debbie. Next slide, please. So we know from the poll that Sonia ran at the start, there is a very large majority of you from Winnipeg and just a very small number of you from outside Winnipeg. We did want to start by talking a little bit about our locations, and we want to inform you that the Language Training Center has locations outside of Winnipeg. We have 3 locations in rural small centers, and those small centers are in Steinbach, Arborg, and Thompson, Manitoba. And next slide, please. Here's a little information about the programs that are offered in our rural small centers of Steinbach, Arborg, and Thompson. So in those locations, we offer language instruction for newcomers to Canada. You might have heard that referred to as LINC. That stands for Language Instruction for Newcomers to Canada. And essentially that's language training for permanent residents and refugees that uses the Canadian Language Benchmarks Framework, as well as the PBLA portfolio-based language assessment approach. These courses are offered both in person in Steinbach, Arborg, and Thompson, as well as blended. And when we use the term blended, we mean that a course is a combination of in-person and online classes. And in rural small centers, some of the courses are also offered online only, meaning no in-person classes. Classes are all part-time and offered either in the morning, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., or in the evening, 6 to 9 p.m. The presentation we're doing today is timely because we have a new term, our winter term, starting in the new year, 2023, January 3rd. And for these classes, there is no cost to IRCC eligible clients. These classes are supported by the federal government. And I should also mention the levels of study available in our rural small centers. They are literacy. I don't think we have many literacy students here, but there may be a literacy student in your family or in your network, as well as CLB 2 to 8. So that's a little information about the language training available in our rural small centers of Steinbach, Arborg, and Thompson. Next slide, please. Our location in Winnipeg is called Manitowoc-Bibidazige. Manitowoc-Bibidazige, and that is an Ojibwe name. The meaning in English is, where the Creator sits, there is light. Where the Creator sits, there is light. Manitowoc-Bibidazige is a brand new building in downtown Winnipeg on Red River College Polytech's Exchange District campus. It's a state-of-the-art building for learning and teaching, and we are very excited to now be located downtown on this campus and to utilize the features of this beautiful building to enhance learning and teaching. Next slide, please. So one of the programs offered in Winnipeg is called English for Employment and Academic Study. It's also a LINK program, Language Instruction for Newcomers to Canada, as is the program in our small rural centers. It's also offered blended, which is a combination of in-person and online classes, as well as online only. There are both full-time and part-time classes. I know the large majority of you are interested in part-time. The full-time classes are 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. and the part-time classes are offered in the morning and in the evening. In the morning from 9 to 12 and in the evening from 6 to 9. Again, the start date for our winter term is January 3rd, 2023. And the CLB levels taught are CLB 4 to 8. Again, no cost for LINK programs for IRCC eligible clients. I should, mention that another feature of LINK programming is the LINK certificate. So students receive a LINK certificate with their the CLB levels that they have achieved during the programming at the end of their reporting cycle. Next slide, please. Another very interesting program that we offer in Winnipeg is called our Work Experience Program, or WEP for short. And I'm going to pass it over to Chris to introduce it.
Great. Thank you, Stuart and Debbie. So again, good morning, everyone. I'm just going to briefly talk about It's called the Work Experience Program here at the Language Training Center. And before I do, as Stuart mentioned, we have a lot of different language and communication programs within the college. And some of them might have more of an employment focus, some of them might have more of an academic focus, and so on. This is one of the programs that has very much so an employment focus, okay? And so before I go on, just to give an example, within each program or class, there will be different language assessments that students will do so that the instructor can grade or mark and measure to see how, or just to see how a student is performing, how they can improve, and different things like this. And in this program, an example of an assessment would be some of the classes are tasked to do a cover letter. And so when the instructor looks at the cover letter, not only is the instructor looking at the language side, is it written properly, the grammar, and so on, but they're also making sure that the cover letter is good to go so that the student can even apply for work in the future. So again, it's very much so a language and communication program, but also it has that employment lens to it as well. So we'll go to the next slide here. So there's some similarities between this program and some of the ones that Stuart had mentioned, but it is a 15-week program. It's full-time days and it's blended. Okay, so most of the classes in this program are going to be 4 days on site in the classroom at the campus, and then 1 day virtual. Now, within those 15 weeks, 12 of the weeks are going to be in the classroom focusing on language, and again, specifically language and employment, okay? But then something that's really unique is for 3 weeks out of the 15 weeks, there is something called a work experience placement. And I'll talk a little bit about it now, but the next slide actually has more to discuss about it. But basically, we will meet with students, find out what students are wanting to do for their career here in Winnipeg. And then from there, we will send students out into the workplace to complete a practicum. And this gives students an opportunity to get hands-on experience within the workplace, okay? And as well to practice and observe English and communication within the workplace. So the start date for the next program or for the next classes here is January 3rd, 2023. The English requirement is CLB 5 to 8. And then as well, there is no cost to IRCC eligible clients. And we'll go to the next slide. So before I go over this slide, at the very beginning of the term, again, we meet with students, and we do this to find out a couple things. We want to know what the student's background is, what their experience is, what their education is. But the most important thing we want to find out is, what does the student want to do here in Winnipeg? Some of the students we work with, let's say were an engineer before and they want to pursue that career here in Winnipeg, but sometimes students will also change their career and pursue and go for something else. And so from there, after we meet with the student or students, we have multiple employer partners that we work with, and actually Manitoba Start is one of them, where we would decide, okay, if someone wants to be an engineer, let's try to place them in an engineering firm. If somebody wants to, let's say, work at a financial institution like a bank, let's try to find a suitable placement that's related to their job goal. So now I'll just go over this slide. And so it says at the top part in the green section, the WEP, again, that's Work Experience Program. So the Work Experience Program placements provide language learners with an industry work experience. And here are some of the reasons why we do these placements. So the first is so that students can learn and use workplace language and communication skills. Every single company or field, every single field will be a little bit different for how staff communicate to staff. So the way maybe a staff member will communicate in a hospital setting will look a little bit different than, or even a lot different than someone, let's say, communicating in a bank or a credit union, for example. And so we want to give students the opportunity to not only see language and communication in the workplace, but we want to give students the opportunity to see this in your specific desired field that you would like. The next is so that students can participate and build confidence and skills in interacting in the Canadian workplace. Many times, a lot of the students who we'll work with, they'll be a little bit nervous sometimes before they go out onto the placement. It might be the first, let's say, experience they've ever had in Winnipeg or in Canada in general. But a lot of the times when students finish the placement, the confidence levels have rise, and then also the smiles on everyone's face as well as there. The positive attitude is there, and typically students really have a great time at these placements. But the point I'm getting here is they build confidence, and it can show students that they can do the work in Canada. The next one here is apply the language and intercultural concepts from the classroom to real life situations. And so it gives you an opportunity to practice the things that you've learned in class in the workplace. You can also gain valuable Canadian workplace experience. I would say all, but I'll say mostly all, or yeah. Anyways, most employers will provide a Canadian reference for these students, and also most will provide a reference letter as well, which is really nice when you're job searching in a new city or country to have that reference. As well, you'll have a chance to build your network, and I know everybody in the first survey is a registered participant or client within Manitoba Start, and so I'm guessing your career coach has probably told you things like network. And so this is an amazing opportunity to network with professionals within your specific field. Then also, students can have an opportunity to learn, observe, and practice essential employability and 21st century skills, or you might have heard them referred to as soft skills, such as communication, collaboration, critical thinking, problem solving, teamwork, and as well there are more. And then lastly on this slide, obtain industry information to assist them with their academic and career planning. And we'll go to the next slide. So this term, the fall 2022 term, we placed 46 students into different companies. And because we place students into companies based off primarily a student's interest, I wanted to just show you some examples of the different roles that students have partaken in or been involved in during their web experience placement. And so the first person, we were working with an architect, and so we wanted to get them into an architect firm, and that's what we did. And then they ended up being an architect assistant as an example. So I'll just read some of these just so that you can get an idea of some of the opportunities that our students have gone to for the placement. So we have, again, the architect assistant, the finance administrative assistant, childcare assistant, residential support worker, general office clerk, audiologist assistant, HR assistant, engineering support, IT assistant, plant and floral arranger, tool crib stores assistant. Just so you know, because that's a bit of a unique name, that this person did their placement at Red River College's aviation in the aviation program in their shop or their store. A job resource area assistant, a kennel assistant. You might think, what's a kennel assistant? That's what I would think. This is at the Winnipeg Humane Society, and so the person wanted to work with animals, and so we reached out to the Winnipeg Humane Society, and then they did their placement there. And then I'll stop reading there, but you can just see that there's quite a diverse spread of different roles that our students have gone into. And just know, if you join this program, Tell us what you're wanting to do, and we're going to try to get you a very suitable placement. So we'll go to the next slide. So these are some of the learner comments from this past term. So these students actually just finished their placement. And so the first one, it says, this is a great opportunity to learn about Canadian culture and the workplace. I'm so glad to be here. And then this next one, before the start, I was a little bit worried and nervous, but I ended up in a very friendly team. These 3 weeks passed very quickly. I'm glad that I had the opportunity to meet people and update my previous experience. And as I mentioned before about confidence, this person's experience, it's very similar where sometimes people will be maybe a little bit nervous before they start. And then once you get into the workplace, you prove to yourself that you can do this. You have the skills to complete the job and to complete it well. Many of our students will gain that confidence. And then the last quote, you might recognize it. It's adapted, a little bit changed from a famous quote from Neil Armstrong, and it says, "This is one small step for me and one giant leap for my life." So that's a little bit about the work experience program. I'll pass it back over to Stuart, and we'll go on to the next slide.
Great, Chris. Thanks for laying out the broad view and some of the details around the work experience program and its placement. Awesome job. We're moving on now to a section in the presentation that discusses English for Specific Purposes programs. I know that based on the poll, there are some of you who have interest in programs with a specific purpose. And so this information is for you, and perhaps raising awareness for others as well as to what we mean when we talk about English for Specific Purposes programs. These programs are offered currently in Winnipeg, and one of the programs is offered online only and available to those people living in Winnipeg as well as those living outside of Winnipeg. Next slide, please. So we're going to talk this morning about, or this afternoon, about 4 English for Specific Purposes courses. I'm going to briefly talk about the first 2, Communication for Business and Entrepreneurship and Academic English Program for University and College Entrance. And my colleague Debbie will be speaking about the next 2, Communication for Health Professions in Canada, and a very interesting project that Debbie has been involved in called Internationally Educated Nurses in Manitoba project. And next slide, please. So Communication for Business and Entrepreneurship, or CBE, is an English course with a business communication focus. It is offered part-time evenings, which is 12 hours a week, 3 hours a day, 3 hours per evening, Monday to Thursday. And this, for the winter term that's coming up, we're offering this program online only, which means if you live in Manitoba and you're eligible to take it, you can join. Again, the winter start date is January 3rd, 2023. And I should have mentioned before that our terms are 15 weeks in length, something that Chris mentioned, and I should have mentioned. Our courses are our terms are 15 weeks in length. So I think that goes January 3rd to April 29th, 2023. For this ESP course, our English language requirement for entry to be eligible is CLB 7. So they're intended for many of you who are intermediate and high intermediate English language learners. And again, this is open only to IRCC eligible clients for whom there is no cost. Next slide, please. Another English for Specific Purposes program we offer is called APUS, Academic English Program for University and College Entrance. For the first time, we are planning to offer APUS part-time, which means that we are offering 2 courses focusing on listening and speaking in winter 2023. Again, it's going to be offered part-time evenings at 12 hours a week, and it will be offered as blended, which means a combination of in-person and online classes. And we're actually going to try to deliver this hybrid, which means if you are not living in Winnipeg, you may join the in-person class online. Again, the English language requirement is CLB 7 to join, and it's only IRCC eligible clients, only clients who are IRCC eligible can join, and there is no cost. Next slide, please, and I'll turn it over to Debbie.
Thank you, Stuart. Okay, so as I said in my introduction, if you desire a career in a health field or you had a career in a health field, I'd like to talk to you about that. And so we have a program called Communication for Health Professions in Canada, and we have just revamped or redesigned the whole thing to make sure that we can accommodate 2 different streams. So if you've never worked in a health profession and you just have an interest in getting into a college program that's related to health, that's one of the streams. We call that the academic stream. So if you want to enter, again, a college program that is a health-based pathway, maybe you want to be a lab technician or you want to work as a healthcare aide, then we are providing an academic stream of communication for health professions in Canada. If you're an internationally educated health professional, as in you've already been trained to be an occupational therapist, a physiotherapist, a physician, and you name it, there are many different healthcare professions, then you may be interested in our professional stream. So same program, 2 different streams. And so when you sign up, you can indicate at that time which is your preferred stream. And according to your preferred stream, academic or professional, you would make a course selection based on the courses that we provide for you. Some of you, if you've heard of communication for health professions, that was a full-time course that we offered for 23 hours a week. And what we found is that people couldn't actually attend that course or stick with the course because it was full-time. So I noticed in the poll that 90% of you are looking for part-time. Ta-da! We are trying to offer you an option for all you part-time people. And the best part is we also have options for the 10% of you that wanted full-time, because you can take one of our courses, which is 45 hours. In other words, 7.5 weeks of attending a 3-hour class every week online and doing 3 hours of work each week. So that's 3 hours online to meet with your instructor and practice the concepts, and 3 hours where you do your own work at home, your homework, as it's traditionally called. And you would do all of that online. And you would take that course for 7.5 weeks before you could start another course. If you wanted, you could take 2 of those 45-hour courses or 3 of those 45-hour courses. It depends on how much time you have. So what we're trying to do is accommodate all you part-time people and the full-time people who do have more time to devote to their studies. So you can see on this slide here that I've reflected most of what I said. It's part-time evenings, 2 1.5-hour classes a week. It's online delivery, and there are those 2 streams. All we ask is that you have a Canadian language benchmark of an average of 7. And we are targeting those CLB 7/8 for people interested in a career in health. Because we're busy working on the curriculum to design it in such a part-time way, it starts in April, but it's not too early to register and put in your interest to get on our list for an April start. Thank you. Next slide. So I just want to talk to you too about a project called the Internationally Educated Nurses in Manitoba project, which is funded by the province of Manitoba. And you may have heard a lot about internationally educated nurses or IENs in the media these days. Well, we've partnered with the province to provide the language training to internationally educated nurses who need to prove their language proficiency by taking an exam like the CELBAN or IELTS, and they need the language skills required for that. So it's very specialized, so I'm not going to go into all the details considering our audience here today, but I do want to say, if you're listening today and you're an internationally educated nurse, there are funding supports available to you, and you need to apply. There's a portal online that you need to apply to, and I'm going to provide that information at the end of this session. So if you're an internationally educated nurse and you want to be a nurse in Manitoba, you need to apply with the province, and then the province of Manitoba gives you access to the language program here at Red River College. So you need to go through them first. And like I said, I'll provide that link at the end if we do have any nurses here. But basically what we do is we offer the language training needed to succeed on the CELBAN, which is the language proficiency test that internationally educated nurses use. So I just don't know how relevant this is for everybody in our crowd today. And so, as I said, please stay tuned to the end and do bring your questions if you are an internationally educated nurse. One of the key elements to this program is that we have a student integration coordinator, which is my last point here on the slide. And because the shoe needs to fit, we talked about finding the right pathway for you. That individual works with you, if you're an internationally educated nurse, to help you find your pathway into the field of nursing. Next slide, please. And I just wanted to share a little bit of feedback from learners who have been in the program who have ended up succeeding in their language proficiency exam, the CELBAN. And I won't read those for you, but except for maybe the last one, to say I was on the verge of giving up, but my spirits are high now. This person passed their language proficiency exam after taking our courses. And I just want to encourage you with that. Don't give up, no matter what your field or your pathway is or which shoe you're going to wear for your journey, but just carry on. We've got a program for everybody. It just is a matter of finding that right fit. And that's why we're here today. So thanks for being here. Next slide. And I just want to recognize the many partnerships. And so for us to be able to provide this funded language training, it does require many partners. And so I just wanted to acknowledge those partnerships. Lots of organizations working together to provide this language training through Red River College. Thanks for listening.
Thanks very much. Next slide, please. I'm cognizant of the time. We want to leave some time for questions and answers. So I'm going to move a little more quickly through the last slide. So thank you for your patience. I did want to speak very briefly about another type of program we offer at the LTC. It's called the READY program. Next slide, please. The goal of the READY program is to provide occupation-specific language training in the area of welding and metal fabrication, to pathway students to technical training in welding and metal fabrication provided by our partner organization, Winnipeg Industrial Skills Training Center, with a goal of finding employment in welding and metal fabrication for clients with lower beginner level English language proficiency. So this is a program for clients at CLB 4-5 approximately. So if you are not at that level, but have someone in your family or someone in your network who may be suitable for and is looking to begin a career in welding and metal fabrication. This information might be relevant to them. It's a 10-week language pathway, which is full-time, 25 hours a week, followed by 6 months of technical training. The language pathway, which is offered by the LTC, is delivered in a blended format. So there is a combination of in-person and online classes. We have our 4th and final intake for the current cycle of Ready on January 16th, 2023. And this program is open both to IRCC eligible clients as well as refugee claimants, Canadian citizens, and individuals who are here through the Canada-Ukraine Agreement on Emergency Travel, or QIT. So if you or someone you know might be interested in pursuing a career in this area, this would be a very suitable program for them. Next slide, please. Here's a learner comment. I'm happy now because of after 3 years later, I had a chance. So this program really offers individuals a chance to change the trajectory of their experience in Canada through a very well-designed training program. Next slide, please. We mentioned that one of our goals for this presentation was to help you understand how you can seek a referral to Red River College Polytech Language Training Center. You may already know that is done through Winnipeg English Language Assessment and Referral Center, or WELARC. And you can either call them or email them or visit them in person to arrange for a language assessment if you do not already have one. And if you do have one, for a referral to the Language Training Center if what we've presented to you today has interest to you. With that said, next slide, please. We can move forward to our question and answer phase.
Well, thank you so much for that informative presentation. So now we'll open it up to the audience. Again, do we have any questions? And you can type your questions in the questions panel box, or you can raise your hand and we will unmute you so you can ask your question. All right, so I'm just taking a look at our questions box here. All right, we have a lot coming in. So we have a few questions asking about individuals who are still waiting for their WELARC assessment date. So they're just inquiring what would be, I guess, the next term if they cannot make it for the winter term start date.
Yeah, so I understand that as soon as we receive your referral from WELARC, you are placed on a wait list. And although we have indicated that the start date is January 3rd, we continue to accept students in order to fill the seats in each class. So you will be contacted in the order we receive your referral, and as soon as a seat becomes available, and it could be in the first week or the first 2 weeks or the first 3 weeks, etc., you'll be contacted. So even though we have not received your referral by the start date, that does not mean that you will not have an opportunity to have a seat in the winter 2023 term. I'll let you jump in one moment. If Debbie, if it turns out that we don't have a seat for you and we have received your referral, we will certainly have your name remain on the wait list and you'll be contacted as soon as possible. Sorry, Debbie, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to add that we offer the next 15 weeks worth of programs starting in April as well. So there is a fresh start for many of these programs in April and then again in September. So.
Okay, great. So just to clarify then, Stuart, then individuals should contact the language programs directly if they're interested?
No, they don't. You don't have to. If we receive your referral, you're entered into our client management system and you'll be considered for the next available seat.
Okay, so if they have the referral from WellArg.
Right.
Okay.
I think the key is that it's on. The key is that it's ongoing intake, right?
Okay.
It's continuous intake. It's not a start of a program and an end of a program. It's continuous intake is the key.
Got you. Thank you for clarifying. Great. We have a question coming in. This individual is an international student. So they're inquiring about, is there English language programs for them?
That's a great question. So what our team belongs to a program that is funded by Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada. So our presentation is only on those courses that are for IRCC eligible clients. We do have a very robust program for international students at the Language Training Center, but the information we're providing does not apply to international students.
Okay, great. Our next question is about this individual is asking if there's any specific language training for internationally educated engineers.
That's a terrific question. In the past, we have run English for Specific Purposes program for internationally educated engineers and technologists. Currently, we are not running that program because we have been unable to meet the enrollment requirements of the funder. And however, we are certainly looking at what kind of programming we can provide to internationally educated engineers and technologists. And so unfortunately, I don't have anything to offer you. We don't have anything to offer you for January, but please stay tuned and we will hopefully be able to provide you with something that helps you to meet your career goals in the future.
Okay, great. Our next question is from Natalie. So she's just wanting to know, so has a work permit, so she's through the QET work permit, and she's inquiring if she needs to get a study permit first to be eligible for the language programs at Red River College Polytech.
That is a very good question, and honestly, I don't have the answer. I'll maybe ask if anybody on the panel has that knowledge. Michelle?
I just put the link in the chat. I don't know if everybody sees the chat, but I put the link in the chat for the intensive English for internationally educated students. So if you go to that website, it'll have all the information. Hopefully that's helpful.
All right, I'll share that too here with the group. Absolutely, yes.
And does anybody have an answer to Natalia's question? If not, we can certainly, Natalia, get you the answer. I don't want to, without knowing for certain, I don't want to make a guess. But we can certainly connect and get you that response.
Great. We have another question here. This individual is asking, would an IELTS test be sufficient to enter the language programs at Red River College Polytech?
I understand that in the past, we have accepted IELTS scores based on an equivalency with the Canadian Language Benchmark Placement Test. And so I think we would certainly consider that. And I'm going to pass it over to Debbie because you might have some additional information to add.
Maybe just to understand the question, you mean instead of a WellArc referral?
I think so, yes.
Instead of a WellArc placement test, they'd still get the referral, but they would be referred with an IELTS score rather than with a CLB PT result.
We'll stick with Stuart's answer because he's been here longer
Fair enough.
than I have been. Thanks.
All right. So we're having a lot of questions in regards to what is IRCC eligible for programs. So maybe you can just specify as to what that would mean.
Typically that means permanent residence.
Okay, great.
There's quite a longish list of eligibility requirements. I don't have it in front of me, but I'd be happy to share it. But generally speaking, it means permanent residence.
And I just want to jump in there and say, if there are internationally educated nurses in this crowd, I just want to clarify that program that the province is running through Red River College is also for Canadian citizens. Just less, I don't want anyone to get confused, but generally IRCC eligible does mean permanent residence.
Great. Fabulous.
And I'll maybe just add that we are working on stay tuned, because if there are Canadian citizens in this crowd, we're working on coming up with pricing for our programs so that we can also offer programs to those individuals, because we are really starting to see a need for that. And I can't comment right now on what that pricing will be, but it is on our radar and we're looking into that.
Okay, fantastic. All right, so we just have maybe time for one more question. All your questions, just to let you know, will be passed over to the Red River Polytech language training team, so they can respond to your specific questions. All right, so our last question for the day is, this individual is asking that once they've taken or enrolled, participated in a language program, will testing be done after the course to see if an individual's CLB level has increased, or what would that process look like?
Yeah, great question. So we follow an ongoing assessment approach at the Language Training Center as part of our language instruction for newcomers programming, which means that we do assessment primarily for learning, to help learners understand their development and their gaps. And we also do assessment of learning to establish the amount of progress somebody has made. So the short answer is yes, you, with sufficient evidence, you will receive a report that that indicates the level that you have achieved, or the level, or your progress towards a level.
Okay, great, thank you. So thank you all, Stuart, Debbie, Michelle, and Christopher, for joining us today and for that informative presentation. We truly do appreciate. And of course, thank you to all the participants for your excellent questions. And again, those questions that were not answered will be forwarded to the Red River College Polytech team, and they will be able to assist with answering your questions.